Hey, so we wanted to share our birth story. This is Eric. Say hi.
Hi.
We wanted to share our birth story just because we took a lot of classes before Indigo was born, and a big part of the class was watching positive birth stories, and a big thing that helped me, and I think also helped Eric, with the confidence of giving birth, was hearing these positive birthing stories, reading them, filling our minds with positive birthing experiences, just because so often in the media and what we absorb and the knowledge that we're given about birth is negative. So I wanted to pay it forward and share our experience, because we did have a good experience. And this is baby Indigo. And she's sleepy right now. She might wake up. But we'll just pause and resume if that's the case. So what I wanted to do really quickly was just answer the questions that were asked, and then we'll both kind of share our versions of the story. Eric was with me the whole time, and the crew that we had was just basically me and Eric for majority of it, and then we had the birthing assistant come, who was also doula, and that was through Birth Roots Babies, now known as San Diego Community Birth Center, and that was Meisha. She's awesome. She also did my placenta encapsulation, and she's creating a tincture for me with the rest of my placenta. She also took prints and made this cool art piece with the placenta, which I'm gonna post, or once we put it up, I'll take a picture of it. So Meisha came, and I'll bring that in, but Meisha's the birthing assistant, doula, and then Darynée was our midwife, and she came. Meisha, basically when Meisha came back the second time, is when she let Darynée know to come, and that was about 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday the 10th. And Darynée is amazing. So we worked with both of them, along with the whole team of midwives, through Birth Roots Babies. We worked with them throughout our entire pregnancy. And Darynée, I had done research as soon as I found out I was pregnant, and I knew I wanted to have a midwife. I at least to have somebody advocate for me. And then I really I read Darynée's profile, and I just saw her, and I don't know, I just connected with her even when I saw her on the internet, and I just knew that I wanted her to deliver my baby, and I'm so glad that she did. She's awesome. So it was just them two and Eric. I did have options for more support, and I kept those options open, but I just decided to feel into it on the day to decide what kind of support I actually wanted in person. And on that day, I just wanted Eric, and then the birthing assistant, and the midwife. So that's the support that I had, but for most of the time it was just me and Eric. So Eric did play a huge role in the labor, and he really helped, and he held it down, and he can share his what his experience was, but he from my experience, he was a huge support for me, and just having someone who I felt safe with and comfortable with, and who had kind of been through this journey and had as much of a stake in this event as I did. It's his daughter too, so it's just as important to him as it is to me, that the birth went smoothly. So I think that's why I trusted it, and also just because our relationship, like Eric just kind of lets me do my thing and lets me be myself, and that's really what I wanted. I just wanted to be free to just kind of do my thing. I didn't want anyone telling me what to do. I really just wanted to do my thing, which is exactly what happened. So that was one of the questions. It was, how was Eric a part of the birthing experience? And Eric will share his side of the story a little bit more, but it was huge. Another question was, what do you want to remember the most? And what I mostly want to remember is the first time I met Indigo. She's smiling. The first time I met Indigo, there was like the final push. It was like the most intense part of it. But it was just like a flash. Like I was like yelling from that final push, and she came out yelling, and we were both yelling at the same time. And then she just came out like, and I turned around, and she was just like all warm. She was so warm, and like her hair was all wet and like curly, and she had so much hair, and yeah, she was just warm, and like her skin was soft, and she was like so healthy looking. And I don't know, I didn't really have a lot of baby experience, so I thought I was gonna be nervous to like hold a baby, especially because like they're slippery or whatever. But like I just grabbed her, and I just I don't know, she was like everything. I never expected, I didn't know what to expect as far as like what she'd look like or anything. I had visualized like meeting her, but I didn't know what she'd look like or anything. But when I met her, I was like, oh, it's you. Like, so that's what I want to remember the most. And I don't know how Eric did it, because like he was holding my hands as I was pushing. But somehow he got his phone out really fast and got like the picture of like me meeting her for the first time. It was like the best picture ever. I have that picture. We didn't end up filming the birth, because that's how you know when I'm uncomfortable. I wanted to film it, but like that didn't happen. But I'm so grateful that Eric got those first pictures, which I can insert into the video. So that's what I want to remember the most. And then, is there something that you want to remember the most? A moment that you want to remember the most?
I think it was the same. Just when Indigo first came out, it was it hit me like, well, we're parents now, and I was just so happy to see her, and I just remember feeling tons of joy, and we've been thinking about her, wondering how she would be for 9 months, or what she'd look like, what's her personality, how's her birth gonna go. And then she finally was born on the couch, and she came out, and she was looking happy and healthy, and it was definitely a life-changing moment just to witness that in such an intimate setting and in our own home. And I just remember being just so happy to finally meet her. And yeah, I think that was my most memorable part, was when she plopped out onto the sofa and surprise,
somebody caught her. Yeah, so I think we both had the same answer for that. And then, how did you know labor started? I didn't know. I was texting Darynée, like, so starting that Friday, so starting actually on my due date, I started getting signs that I was going into labor. And like that week I was like all paranoid, because they have all those like pregnancy blogs or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god, like, because everybody was scheduling inductions on these blogs, and like for me, a fear was that I did not want to get induced because of the information that I had been given about inductions. And there's nothing against getting induced, but for me, like that sounded more painful, and I knew that I wouldn't have a good experience with it, because from what I've heard is that it's more, the contractions are a lot more intense, and I didn't want to have to go to the hospital, period. So basically, like, for me, like, one of my biggest fears was getting induced, and I was getting nervous because you know, her due date was coming up, and then we hit her due date, and then I was like, crap, like, because in order to have a home birth, at least like with our midwife, it had to be by 42 weeks. So then once I hit her due date, I felt like I was on a timeline, and I was worried. So I was super paranoid about that leading up to it, and like that was probably like the most, I really didn't like feeling the way that I did. But on her due date, I did start getting symptoms for early labor, and I thought my water had broken, and it ended up, we'll get to it later, but she came out in the sac. Basically, the sac popped like literally right before her head popped out, so her sac was intact. So my water didn't break, but there were like I guess fluids that were coming out early. So I didn't know. I started getting cramping. It started with cramps, which I'm not somebody that cramps a lot. So, and you know, and then it turned into spotting, and I was just basically texting with Darynée, our midwife, and letting her know what was going on. She was checking in with me, and then it had grown more intense. So basically all Friday I was spotting, and she was like, that's a good sign. I kept walking and stuff on Friday. I was having cramps. The cramps started getting more intense. Then Saturday morning, I like probably around 3 in the morning, I started feeling like big cramping in my cervix, which is, you know, that's the part that starts opening up. I knew it was my cervix, and I started feeling it there, and it was getting to the point where I couldn't ignore it. So then I let Darynée know, texting. I just said, you know, starting to get more intense cramps. It's getting to the point where I can't ignore it, and we're gonna start timing now. We started timing, and when we started timing it, the contractions were 2 to 3 minutes apart already, and I was still in denial. I was like, well, let's just see. So Darynée had asked if I wanted support, and I was like, no, I think we're good, because they had told me, and what was recommended, we also took hypnobirthing classes, but basically what was recommended was to ignore it as long as you can. So that's what my goal was, and at that time I could still talk and kind of distract myself. So we went for a walk, and we kept timing them, and they kept being 2 to 3 minutes apart, and I was like, well, maybe they're not contractions, like maybe we're not timing them right, and it still kept being consistently 2 to 3 minutes apart. So then I was still in denial, and I was texting Darynée, and I was like, well, do you think this is labor? And she was like, yeah, I think it's labor. And then so at that point, I still was kind of in denial, but I was like, okay, well, like, let's set everything up. We had already had the birthing tub set up in our living room, but we needed to, like, I wanted to cover the couch and rearrange, move the carpets and stuff, so we set everything up. My friends had a mother's blessing ceremony for me during my pregnancy, and part of that was they're supposed to light candles when I go into labor, so I texted everybody to let them know that labor was starting, light your candles. Then there was a few things that I personally just wanted to do. I put Reiki in that room. I put Reiki in the birthing tub. I gave myself Reiki. I put Reiki just basically in the whole house. I wanted to kick off one last yoga sesh, which I did. It was it wasn't super long, but I did do my flow, and then I did meditate, I did my gratitude, I think I journaled, I also journaled. This is all getting to the point where while I could have a spurts where I could ignore it. And then we ordered lunch. I ate a tuna sandwich. One thing that was recommended by Darynée, she just said make sure that you're eating high protein snacks and you're staying hydrated. So that's what I did. Then, and this is Saturday on the 9th. And then so it came about like, I think around 3, the birthing assistant, Meisha, she came over for a little bit, and I wasn't really that uncomfortable. I was managing my pain really well, but I just was more kind of like needed reassurance, and I just also wanted to make sure that she was okay and tolerating the contractions, and I think we both kind of needed reassurance. So she came, she checked her heart rate, she stayed for about an hour, and like we were just talking, and then I was gonna try to take a nap, and then so she lives right down the street, so she went home, and she was basically like, when the sun goes down, usually things get more intense, and she's like, you'll know you're in active labor because you're not going to be able to talk through your contractions. Because at that time what I was doing to get through my contractions was I was just constantly moving. I was moving around a lot, and still trying to distract myself, and it was so what after Meisha left, Eric and I tried to take a nap. He knocked out and was able to do it, but I couldn't. I think we're laying down for maybe 10 minutes, and at it was like basically like right when we laid down, like the contractions started getting more intense, and it got to the point where like I was crying. So I started just having to breathe through them, and then I needed Eric to apply pressure to my back, and we kind of managed them for a while that way. So I was still snacking and drinking, and we were just to ourselves basically from like probably around 6 until 1 o'clock in the morning. It got to the point where like I couldn't really text Darynée or Meisha. It was Eric who was calling and texting Darynée and Meisha and letting them know how I was doing. It got to the point where I was crying. And the thing about contractions though is that they last for a minute. And even though they were 2 to 3 minutes apart, so that's not really that long of a break, I was able to tell myself like, okay, it's just a minute. It's just a minute. It's just a minute. So that's how I was getting through the contractions, but it did get to the point where it was pretty uncomfortable. And then so I think around like 10 or 11 I had gotten into the birthing tub, and that the water really did help. And then Meisha came back around 1. She checked the baby's heart rate and everything, and then she kind of assisted, and then she called Darynée. Darynée was on her way, and then when Darynée came, then they basically gave Eric a break because it was at this time 3 o'clock in the morning Sunday, and we had been up since 3 o'clock in the morning Saturday. So Eric went upstairs to take a nap, and he was maybe up there for a couple hours. Meisha was helping, Darynée was helping. And when this is before Eric had gone upstairs, but when Darynée came, she checked me. She checked my dilation. This is the first time that I actually got checked to see like how I was dilated. I didn't let the doctors in the doctor's office check me, and Darynée never tried to check me before, so I didn't know what to expect, and I was heavy into labor at this point, so laying on my back. It hurt so bad, and I remember I was crying when she was when she was checking me, because I was having contractions, and at this point, like, they're super intense, and again, like 2 minutes apart, like, so I really, like, they're anything I would do, I would be having a contraction basically. So while she was checking me, I had a contraction, but when she did check me, I was already 7 centimeters dilated. So that whole time, when it was basically just me and Eric, we managed and we got through all the way to 7 centimeters dilated. The goal is 10. So we were already in active labor by the time Darynée came in, or transition. I was already coming into transition. So transition is basically like when she starts making her way down the birth canal, or she was making her way down the birth canal. You want to say hi, baby Indigo? Hold her up to the camera. She awakes. She awakes. This is baby Indigo. Hi, we're talking about you. Yeah, so transition is when the baby is, I believe, like when the baby is making their way down the birth canal, so right before the pushing time. It's pretty intense. So from 3 to probably like 7:38 is when I had the transition. But honestly, I probably could have started pushing sooner. I just didn't really know. But yeah, so transition was pretty intense. It was still contractions. They still lasted about a minute. They still were 2 to 3 minutes apart, but they were just very, very, very intense. And you have to remember, like, at this point, it had been over 24 hours, so I was just completely exhausted, crying. And then, but I was in the birthing tub, and I'm sure that labor could have moved a lot faster if I would have not been in the birthing tub because of gravity. Like, if I would have just stood up, because every time I stood up, I felt her coming down, but it just, I couldn't handle it. So I was on all fours a lot just because that felt better. But if I would have been standing up straight, I think labor would have progressed a lot faster. But basically, what happened is Eric had come back down from his nap. Darynée and Meisha were just taking a little break, and I was basically just with Eric, and Darynée had said, like, okay, I think you need to get out of the birthing tub and walk around a little bit, use gravity to bring the baby down. And so Eric was following me around. We were just basically just walking around our kitchen, and he was applying pressure to my back, to my lower back when I would have the contractions, and I was crying a lot. And then I went to the bathroom, so I probably went to the bathroom like 3 times and voided. But Darynée had said, like, basically that it's gonna be time to push, when I just felt like I really needed to void, and like it was like uncontrollable. So it was hard for me to tell that though, because I had actually gone like 3 times. So like the last time I went, I was having a contraction while I was sitting on the toilet, and then but like nothing was coming out, and then so I just decided to check, and I put my fingers down to check, and I felt literally her head. Like, her head was right there, like about to fall out, like in the toilet. It wasn't gonna fall out, I had to push. But so then Eric came in. I called Eric. I was like, oh my God, Eric, like her head's like right there. And then he came in, and he's like, no, I don't want you to have the baby on the toilet. And then Darynée came in, and she came, and she was like, do you want to have the baby here? And like there was like, I know, like there was like this look of like utter fear in my eyes, and I was just like, I don't know. And then she she grounded me. She placed her palms on my knees, and we made eye contact, and she looked at me, and I told her, I was like, I'm scared. I was afraid to push. Then she, oh, we might have to pause.